Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me for this segment, we have John Cahalane, chairman of Tuesday's Children, as well as Terry Sears, executive director with Tuesday's Children, which provides a lifetime of healing for families who are forever changed by terrorism, military conflict, or mass violence. John and Terry, it's great to have you with us. And Terry, I'd like to start with you. 20 years later, since September 11th, it can't believe, just how quickly time has gone by. Tell us about the progress of the families you have supported and how organizations like Tuesday's Children has evolved.
Sure. So, it's been a journey for sure. Everybody can remember where they were that day, and everyone can remember, just how the world has changed. So, it's sort of, like 20 years ago yesterday, if you will. The families, for the most part, are very resilient and have been doing well. But, as we all know, there's secondary losses. There's, things like COVID that can take people that have suffered a traumatic loss and put them, almost back where they were, and almost back in sort of that dark place when there's been a traumatic loss. So Tuesday's Children is really a soft landing place for these families, a community of understanding, and something that I think families know, we're always there. They may not use us every day or every week or even every month, but they know we're there for them.
And John, let's talk about the Wall Street, the trading community, and as competitive we can be, we really have come together. Let's talk about the 20 years ago, the response, and today. How have organizations been commemorating 9/11, and what are firms like TradeWeb and others doing?
I think, Jill, when you think about it, the needs 20 years ago were very different than the needs of 10 years ago and the needs of today. So, I think 20 years ago, as you said, Wall Street is an amazing community of people that when they need to, they come together. And 20 years ago, I think it was, providing support to individual families and foundations and making sure people were financially sound. 10 years ago, it was more about remembrance and, continuing to help organizations like Tuesday's Children. And 20 years now, I think is, could be and hopefully is an inflection point where we can, start to, support the long-term healing and sort of what we're trying to do at TradeWeb, move beyond just the 9/11 families and partner with Tuesday's Children to help others that are impacted in a similar fashion to the 9/11 families, whether it's the military, which we've moved on to, and have pivoted towards Tuesday's Children, or, potentially COVID, which is going to have a huge impact and have, the needs for long-term healing for folks there. TradeWeb, I've been here for 11 years. I left Morgan Stanley. I'm a survivor of the World Trade Center. I didn't realize when I came to TradeWeb, they too were in the World Trade Center. So we quickly kind of, got swept into the Tuesday's Children family. And we've been, sponsoring 5Ks. We're obviously a big sponsor of the annual gala, but more importantly, the company itself has sort of embraced Tuesday's Children as a partner. And we have mentors in our organization that are mentoring 9/11 and military family children. We get a lot of volunteerism, out of TradeWeb for Tuesday's Children. This week is our week of service wrapped around 9/11. So folks at TradeWeb are all trying to do what they can to support Tuesday's Children and other charities that TradeWeb supports.
So John, how's the 20-year anniversary different? How can companies give back today in addition to what you just mentioned, the week in service?
Yeah, I think aside from, folks individually getting involved, it's a sponsorship, right? It's put together a 5K team and run for organizations like ours at Tuesday's Children. Or, we've got many Wall Street organizations stepping up here at the 20th anniversary to sponsor our gala on September 23rd at Citi Field. So I think you're seeing in all different ways, right, organizations trying to help commemorate, what happened 20 years ago and support the families of both, the victims as well as the first responders and the military that followed in.
Terry, what is Tuesday's Children doing to commemorate the 20 years, and is it helping the families of the most recent fallen soldiers?
Yeah, so Tuesday's Children is always about the long-term support. We used to say, we're there when the casseroles stop coming. So with the families that have recently had losses in the military, we're not really there in the immediate aftermath. We're not a grief organization, but we're there for resilience and skill-based programs for those families over the longer term. I would say that, the 9/11 anniversary every year is always for our families a incredibly private time. And we sort of step back a little bit. It's when we do things like 5Ks and galas, but we're there to support the families, but they have their own traditions. And in many ways, it's a quiet time with the way we help families during, around 9/11, just because they have their own traditions and people remember then. We're there when people are not remembering.
All right, Terry, John, thank you so much for all the service that you're doing. And thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
You got it.